All right, guys, Happy New Year. This is Josh Ruman from Uterus Healing, and today I want to talk to you about copper toxicity. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, show us a little support. Don't forget to comment too, share your thoughts, whether they're good or bad. It doesn't bother me. Secondly, subscribe to our channel. Do yourself a favor. We have tons of videos. We put out videos each week, and they're all educational in different schools of thought. And lastly, hit that notification button so every week when we put out a video, you get notified. Let's jump in. So, copper toxicity, it is talked about, it is pushed, and people believe they're truly copper toxic. Well, I have news for you. You are not copper toxic. And yes, I know the first thing people are going to say is the copper IUD. You know, women that get these put in their body and they show up copper toxic. Remember, most of these are copper plated they're mostly nickel, which is probably causing more of the symptoms and inflammation in itself. At the same time, anytime you put something foreign into the body, it's going to cause inflammation. The body is going to kind of mount an attack on it and get used to having this foreign thing in the body. This is a big example. It's not to this extent, but it's like getting an organ transplant, from a different body. Your body looks at that thing as a foreign invader and attacks it, and that's why you have to take tons of medication. So I believe most of the issues and the inflammation are coming from putting this thing in our body or females' bodies. And I'm not saying it's an easy, thought process, because there's a lot of things that are happening. There's a lot of reasons you do it. I get it, but there has to be a better, less invasive, safer, more healthier way. But copper toxicity, what is going on here? Well, here's the thing. Our body is this beautiful, amazing machine, and we're born with lots of copper. It's stored in our liver. This is where it naturally should be. The problem is, over the years or many years, because of GMO foods, glyphosate chelating copper, because of high fructose corn syrup chelating copper, because of all these synthetic vitamins and minerals that are people taking, like vitamin D, how it depletes liver retinol, zinc, how it increases metallothionein and chelates copper, taking excess calcium, all these, taking iron, which works inverse with copper, so it just depletes copper. Among a lot of other different things. We get it in our supplements, but we get it in our food source, right? Because you get a lot of synthetic A and you get a lot of synthetic D in dairy and things like that. So the problem is we have all these things plus chronic stress, right? We've done videos on this too, but our copper levels are coming down. On top of that, breastfeeding, among a million other reasons, we download tons of bioavailable copper because it's in breast milk to the baby. And there's a reason for this. You're born with copper, you get it from the mother, it's downloaded during pregnancy, and then when they breastfeed, they download more bioavailable copper to help you metabolize that and use that in the cell to produce antioxidants, superoxide dismutase, glutathione peroxidase, catalase, cytochrome oxidase, all these antioxidants to help you grow and create this beautiful human being. The problem is we're depleted because of stress, we're depleted because of food and supplements, and unfortunately a lot of women aren't breastfeeding nowadays. Yes, some of you do, but a lot aren't. So we have this innate system. The problem is we're not supporting it, right? Now, yes, some blood labs show, and the best one you can do is the full Monty blood panel. I will put that in the description below. But you need to look at not just copper, whether you do an HTMA or full Monty, you should always do them together. I'll put that below too. But you can't just look at copper. You have to look at copper, ceruloplasmin, which is bioavailable copper, retinol, zinc, all these different things to make correlations. One value doesn't tell you anything. That's like taking your car in and they say, well, your tire pressure is low. You need to put on 4 new tires. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the problem is that's what's happening with labs. But when we see this, it's telling us something, right? Remember, the body stores copper. Why? Well, because this is an interesting thing that's happening in our body, and we've talked about it in many videos. Retinol is carried to the liver by a TTR protein. Other proteins use retinol to load copper into another protein in the liver called ceruloplasmin. So it's almost like, the retinol grabs copper and walks it over here and puts it in this protein, ceruloplasmin. We can call that bioavailable copper. And now we can use the copper, right? Because it's being metabolized. Copper by itself, we really can't use it. We need retinol in a simple sense. It's like copper plus retinol equals ceruloplasmin. The ceruloplasmin is bioavailable copper, and we've mentioned this before. It's the only mineral on this planet that can activate oxygen to produce energy in the cell, to produce antioxidants, to help us produce thyroid hormone, and the list goes on, right? So without that process, we get this illusion of being copper toxic. The problem is when you look at it, what you should think is copper toxic equals lack of bioavailable copper equals retinol deficiency. That's what we're really seeing. And as I mentioned, certain things like synthetic A that we're taking in supplement form or we're getting in dairy, people are just taking tons and tons of vitamin D supplements when they don't need, which depletes liver retinol, among other things. So if you don't have enough retinol, on top of most people aren't eating enough foods that allows them to get enough retinol because we're afraid of a lot of foods, or we just eat chicken and steak, right? But what we need to start doing, and I'm not saying this is an end-all be-all, but what most people need to do if they think copper toxicity is they need to start eating retinol-rich foods, right? We need to start eating organ meats, eggs, dairy, fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, etc. Get more retinol in our diet. At the same time, what can help with this, because anytime you see copper toxicity, which means retinol deficiency or low bioavailable copper, we need to think iron overload too, because you use ceruloplasmin to recycle iron. And we've done a YouTube on this as well, and I'll put that below. So we need to think iron overload. So a good start in this process, because it is a process, this isn't the only thing, is getting more whole food seafoods like any type of citrus fruits, berries, and things like that, because whole food C contains an enzyme called tyrosinase. Tyrosinase stimulates the liver to produce ceruloplasmin. So you can help yourself with the copper toxicity, and you can help yourself with the iron overload. So the point of this video isn't to say this is an end-all be-all. It's educational. It's to help you understand that there's no such thing as a copper toxicity. Because if we step back and we understand the body's this beautiful machine. We just have to eat in a way and live in a way to support it so it can metabolize copper, and we can use that ceruloplasmin to regulate health, life, energy, antioxidants, etc. Thanks for tuning in. I'm out. Peace.